Consider this a peek behind the curtain. While you're here, this is us doing our taxes. This is us doing our expenses. So if you feel like you want to donate to the Patreon, maybe get some of this in order.
Fill up all these ones. Hello.
Hello again.
Welcome back to the podcast. This is Mad Notions. Welcome back to Mad Notions. That would have been a better way to say it.
Yeah.
Podcast is very broad and vague.
It would help our case if we didn't go weeks without saying it.
You see, now I have the graphics under our names
Right.
that say who we are.
Yeah.
Well, it says our Twitter and Instagram
But what if
handles.
the audio-only listeners forget? That's the thing.
Oh, well, to be fair, YouTube is hard enough to access.
It is, yeah.
It's really
Not a lot of people know about
It's
it.
very exclusive. It's a little known website, but I think it'll take off one day. I'm glad we got it on the ground floor. I think it works with most TVs now. If you can find the app, just search for it, and then you could.
You're assuming that everybody digests media the same way you do, though. A lot of people might be listening to this on the go in the car.
They could well be. My only worry is that some of the episodes that I edited over the isolation period I was in have like little sound cues and stuff, and they might be like, "What the fuck is going on here?" But just bear in mind that the audio now is just being lifted from the video edit.
Yeah.
So it is what it is. So every now and again there might be a weird sting that you don't know what it is. Sorry, it'll probably not affect your
Context clues, though, they'll get it. These are smart.
You'll understand.
A lot of these are doctors for some reason.
A lot of you are doctors. But yeah, I have noticed a massive increase in the average of folks that are like the generally seem to be veering towards using YouTube for the episodes, which I very much appreciate.
Because boy, does this fella work hard at it.
I sure do. Yeah, it's definitely. I mean, it's still sitting up around like the kind of 50 to 80 mark. But I mean, it's much better than the 4 who were tuning in at the start. But I understand these things take time to. And to be fair as well, like, I mean, I had the balls to be given out that only 4 people were watching it, but after going through some of the clips, I don't blame you. Because, like, it did look terrible, but it looks really good now. So, if I may say so myself, we ended the last podcast on a cliffhanger, which was, how do you think your parents would describe to other people what you do?
I think now they would probably say.
I feel like sorry, I should get mine out of the way because I think mine, to be fair to them, would have a fairly good grasp of what I do and would just be like, yeah, he sings, and I mean, like my mum kind of played in bars for a living as well. So,
Yeah.
So it wouldn't be a million miles away for her to explain that, and then they might get probably stuck in the mud with the tries to write his own music part.
Yeah.
But not them personally, but just more on other people's reactions and trying to explain it. But I think, to be fair to them, they probably do alright. But I'm interested to hear how you, because you said recently whenever you were on that Skype call with your sister and her fella, your dad had a kind of a interesting couple of ways of describing you to new people.
Smarter than you'd think.
Yeah. No, he is actually quite intelligent.
And I think they would have to, because well, fingers crossed, hopefully it's going through this. I got a decent kind of script commission.
Mm-hmm.
That's a good fucking, hopefully it'll be a good chunk of the year dedicated towards writing it, so can point to that, and now they'll comfortably be able to say, well, he's doing a better, it'll always be he's doing a bit of writing.
Yeah.
And it would have been, before it was a bit of music.
Yeah.
And then it'd be like this doesn't even factor in it. This is it's on my ma's radar. I don't even think my dad he's no more interested in it, but not like against it or anything. Just does not like it does not compute in his world.
Yeah.
My mom just goes, "You and him have wild chemistry. He's have such. I just laugh and laugh."
I think the Radio 4,
Mom.
The Radio 4 thing would be will be a much easier bridge to cross for
fuck, I know, but I daren't. ask them what they think of it, because
no, but I just mean like when they're telling people,
yeah.
they'll be like, oh well, he wrote a thing and it's on Radio 4.
But
like,
that's the reason why they would explain it badly. I only realized this recently was because I'm aware of how privileged this is to sound. And I have such a good relationship with my parents. They've always kind of been broadly supportive of whatever the hell it is I've been doing, and I never. So, because I never really communicated effectively all the shit that I was in, how invested I was in everything.
Yeah.
So then when you get something massive and you're like, oh, here, I've got this radio pilot, or they're going to produce a script and film a script, and they're like, oh, that's great.
Yeah.
And you're like, I've put my life in this, and then I realize it's because they need to know. They need more from me to respond appropriately.
Yeah.
And I used to get I started getting wound up by it, the more kind of stuff that was happening, and then I realized that it was my problem and not theirs at all.
I hate having to explain what I do for a living to
people.
people.
Well, that's it. It's excruciating.
Like when you meet people. I was actually listening to an episode of Sam Harris's podcast there recently, and he had. Do you remember the guy who was one of the Democratic candidates? He got fairly big on Twitter after a while, but Andrew Yang, did you come across him at all?
His name's familiar.
He was this seems like would be a really great candidate anyway, but he was talking about like when he started, he wasn't he is like in his own right like a millionaire and like has made a lot of money, but like obviously as a presidential candidate, like the news kind of channels and stuff like weren't really treating him like as a serious candidate, so he wasn't getting like a lot of coverage and stuff at the start, taken very seriously or whatever. They obviously had resigned, like the news companies had obviously decided that like Biden was going to get it or something, so they weren't really paying attention to him unless he did mad shit or whatever. But he said he remembers like not long after announcing that he was running for president and just being at like one of his kids' birthday parties and just like the realization of like how mental he would sound when people were like, so what are you doing? He's like, I'm actually running for president. And he said like he would do everything he could to avoid like saying it at a just like a fucking weird like social event, And then eventually they'd be like, but what do you do? Like, and he would eventually have to be like, well, I'm actually running to be president.
If I was at that kid's birthday party, I'd be like, look at this dick.
Exactly.
Running for president.
Exactly, yeah. And he said he would end up getting into it then,
This kid's a dick.
He said he remembers he said he remembers one of the dads just being like, so what do you do? And he was like, well, I'm running for president. And he said they got into it like back and forth about like a couple of policy things, whatever. And he said notably the guy didn't say like, well, you've got my vote. He was like, well, best of luck with it. But I always, well, it obviously depends on like the scenario, but I nearly always veer away from, I just say like I work in music or something.
Yeah. I had a very sweet moment with my parents when I rang them to tell them about that commission. They were kind of, I might have already talked about this, where they said one of my primary school teachers when I was like P6, P7, not the one that left me traumatized with this global warming thing from Thursday we chatted about that.
Yes.
The one
Good riddance.
Yeah, no. I was much older and wiser at this point, but apparently he had said to them that I was going to be a writer.
Oh wow!
I could that I had it in me to be a writer, and he had kept load of my stories and brought them down to the staff room, which I thought was and my dad. So my dad was telling me that, and he goes, "I always remember him saying that."
Brilliant.
So that was a nice kind of attaboy,
Yeah, absolutely, yeah. I think on my end of primary school report, my principal wrote in the margin, my sixth class teacher wrote in the margin something about like, wish him all the best in the world with the music or whatever, and I want 10%. And then my principal, who also had to run his eyes over every report, wrote further in the margin, me too.
Nathan, I hate to break it to you, that's legally binding.
You're like, call the lawyers, though. Seriously.
Do you know what? Speaking, I've noticed that. Do you remember? I think it was about a year or two ago. I was asked to do this thing for Radio 4. Like, it was Stephen Rainey asked me to do it, and I went down to Oma and had a conversation with my old art and form teacher.
Yes, yeah, I do.
Declan Ford. Mm-hmm. He does a thing, Oma Community Internet Radio. And it's him and I think it was another retired teacher. And I've stumbled across it there, and I was just listening, and I was like, what a fucking great guy that is to have met at just the right formative time in my life, you know.
Yeah, was any good?
It was brutal.
No chemistry.
No, it was fucking great. He's talking about the time Thin Lizzy played in the Royal Arms Museum, so it was all right up my street as well. I was like,
should we go up for an episode?
I would fucking love to have him on. He's like,
why don't we go onto his show?
I'm like, don't swear, Nathan. We're here to impress Dad. I mean, Mr. Ford. I mean, Declan.
The fucking countdown clock, you know, live in 5. Fuck. Cunt. Dude, there's no stress like being told you're about to be live on the radio at 10 in the morning and trying desperately to be like, how do I speak like a normal person without swearing all the time?
Some cunt on the UTV traumatized me for live interviews when I accidentally said I'd said that I graduated from English instead of from Queen's, and he jumped on it and took the hand out of me live on radio, and I swear to God, it really.
To be fair, it is an awful faux pas.
I was only like I could have only been about 20 or 21.
He stumbled you back.
And I stumbled over my words, and he kind of highlighted it, and I just felt like such a dickhead. And I, to this day, struggle with my prepositions, Nathan.
You sure do, buddy. You sure do. And just nouns in general.
I think it hit it because I just recently graduated with the barest minimum of effort.
The old radio interview crack is tough, like. But
I was feeling like I had,
the first time you get thrown in, like
you're supposed to be kind of. There's an idea that you would be some in some way articulate, having studied language and literature, And I just made such a culty hames of it, and I can't fucking. I think it was like, is it George Jones or who the fuck was it? It's one of them, our lure fellas.
Couldn't tell you. Wasn't there.
It's not George Jones. Who the fuck's George Jones? I'm around. I'll never forget it. If I ever see him again, I'll kill him.
It's mad going in. It's mad going in for the first time to those things, and like, I mean, because what's like the psychology of it is like you're basically being told, here's this bit of work that you have put a load of work and time and money into, and this is your shot. Especially the first few times before like you really know the crack with it all. You know what I mean? Like you're like, this is your shot. This is your opportunity. There's 100,000 people listening to this. Here's your big chance. And then you go on and you're like the pressure to be on and be like, what am I trying to convey here? You know what I mean? Like, I remember like that first single I ever did any radio stuff for was called Long Way Down. It was one of the Universal batch. And sure, like, fucking hell, like, what was I on about? Like, you know what I mean? Just going in, just like, I mean, it was pretty much the same interview every time. It was just like, oh, so you're signed to Universal and what's that like and blah blah.
Also, like, by default, it's like having a conversation with someone who's constantly looking at the clock.
Or not looking at you at all.
Yeah, because but they're always thinking about they have to make sure everything's running on time.
Yeah.
So they're only half really listening a lot of the time. Now there is some good fucking people out there who make it a wee bit interesting, but for the most part, that dynamic is ever present regardless of because that's just the medium in which you're operating in. And it's a really hard way to feel like you're relaxed and natural if someone's just kind of constantly looking. Like, I need to wrap this up.
Yeah, Universal sent me for media training before I did any of those things. Just one day with one fella in Dublin, and so he set up a video camera and just acted as the radio host or whatever, and just did all that distracting shit to me. So he was just like...
Really? They fucking...
So he was just like, so Nathan, you're from... he was like, it says here you're from Cork. Because, radio interview. It says here you're from Cork. Really exciting about this new single. How's it going? And then he just like sat and just like, did all this shit. And just like, was just like really off-putting.
And what age were you?
16 or something. Then I was about 18 or 19. And then we would stop and we would watch it back, and then he'd be like, right, so, and then he was like, let's go through it and figure out what information you provided in this 3-minute segment. And like, you'd get to the end of it. It's an interesting exercise to do. Like, you get to the end of it and you're like, right, so you never said your name. I didn't say your name. Like, or like there'd be times where like he didn't say my name on purpose to see if I clocked that my name hadn't been said. He's like, you're on the radio to promote a single. How are they supposed to look it up if they don't know who you are? You know, that sort of stuff. And or like you haven't told people where they can find your music. You haven't told people the name of the song. You haven't told people what your handle on Twitter is. You haven't like all this sort of stuff, you know. And then he's like, right, now let's try it again. And then he would do it again. And then I was like, right, like basically like how to get like the tightest 3 minutes. And like,
I bet you he was like, Rebecca, cancel my 4 o'clock.
yeah, we've got
this guy's going to take all day. He likes to talk.
We've got a real fucking idiot on our hands.
We've got a real rambler, a real rack hunter here.
And it was funny. He shot it on like some kind of, at the time, you know, like high spec video camera that had like a mini disc in it that it would write to, and then he gave me that copy and was like, here's the only copy of this, there you are, take that away with you, and if you want to watch it again, sure, do whatever, but like I don't have a copy of this. And then it sat in my drawer for literally, I would say 4 or 5 or 6 years. Like it had been ever present. It moved up north of me, you know, like I took it with me. I was like, I don't want any fucker fucking finding this. I'd never watched it again. And I always felt like it was in my drawer, like hanging over me. I really hated that it even existed because I knew how terrible it would probably be and awful to watch back. And then recently, just clearing out the studio in the house there, it was in a drawer, and I just opened it up and just snapped it into a million pieces.
Really? You didn't watch it again?
I just never want to see that. I have no. It wasn't like a traumatic day or anything. It was just like, I know.
But it is kind of fucking.
It was
like it's a shit thing that for a kid to have to go through.
Yeah, it wasn't. I mean, it's just your man was really nice now and all. Like, I mean, I would recommend him like if you needed to go and do that.
Like,
but
in general, there should be a bit more consideration given to youth when it comes to these kind of big things.
But I tell you what, I mean, it was invaluable because right enough. Like I remember there was one in particular down in, I'll be as specific as Munster, and say drove into the city that it was in, found the place. I'll never forget. It felt like it was in like a Ryanair lounge. It was just like blue and yellow, super blue and yellow. The decor of the place had that like old office sort of like felt weird, like padded everything. It was just really awful looking. And I went in and everybody was like, I don't know, I got the feeling like this guy was a real big deal in his own small world.
Yeah.
And I went in and it was just one of the worst interviews I've ever done in my life. He was just really shit crack and just like kind of trying really. He had that awful quality that I think is a marker of a terrible interviewer, which is just trying to always be funnier than you and more interesting than you. And at one point he brought up something. He was like, so you're in a... yeah, that was it. He was like, you're in a band. What's the name of the band then? I was like, I'm not in a band. And he was like... And he goes, on air, it says here you're in a band. I was like, well, it couldn't say there I'm in a band because I'm not in a band. He was like, right, well, who gave me this? Who gave me this then? Hang on. Oh, here you are. Here you are. Sorry. I was just like, nice to see you again. Dickhead. But, because the spiel of all of those things, like they obviously, people listening know you don't know them personally or whatever, but surely the implicit like narrative is that would be more favourable to come across is that this presenter has found you themselves and liked your music and wanted you on the show. Yeah. Not who's this cunt then?
Yeah.
Until the news. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I mean? And that was
who's
what
this cunt?
Who's this cunt then? And why the fuck should I care about him? You know what I mean? But and like, yeah, it was just like, I remember getting a phone call after the first one on 2FM. Or it was Radio 1 actually. It was, can't remember what show it was. It was John Creedon. Might have been John Creedon or something. Can't remember what it was anyway. But and it was me and John McCulloch came down from Belfast to play with me as well. Because it was like, they were like, this is like the big one on the, like this will be like the biggest one you do. Mm-hmm. And I was like, right, okay. So, and we stayed in the Camden Court Hotel in Dublin the night before. I had a few pints, like just because I hadn't seen him in months, you know, and I didn't really know John that well anyway then at the time anyway. So like we were just having a couple of drinks. We didn't get like blocked or anything. We only had a few. Went up, did a bit of rehearsing in the hotel room. John brought a pair of headphones, our earphones, and I took the left because we were in a hotel room and it was late at night. We didn't want to be like making loads of racket, so like just we both had like an ear of the headphone each, and then I could hear his piano that way, and then that's how we practiced. I'll never forget. It was really weird, but went in, did it. First message I got from the girl who was like in charge of like promo for Universal was like was something along the lines of like, might be a good idea for the next few to warm up first. I was like, thanks, cheers, nice one. Something's after going off there.
That's not plugged into the charger.
Oh shit. I've really ruffled the table here. But yeah, I remember there was like there's a couple of those along the way that like have always stuck with me, just like kind of at the time thinking like, well, this is just, I guess, what life's going to be like, and I better get used to it and I'll get better at it and whatever. But then like it was nuts.
That's the just definition of unhelpful.
Yeah, but it was mad because like, I don't know. I mean, looking back, I wasn't really dying on the tune either, or whatever either. Like, and I remember the music video we shot. I had said, so the guy who shot it was great. In fairness, like he was really nice. It was a very like last minute thing, and he phoned me, and basically gave me like a rundown. He had a couple of storyboards for like what he wanted, a couple of ideas he had, and he was really thorough. It was amazing. Like he came up with them like in a night and sent me like 3 great ideas. I really liked one of them, and he was like, have you anything that you would like? I was like, look, I would just like to only be in it in the circumstance of me playing or something. I don't want to be like acting or anything. Yeah. I was like, I would feel really uncomfortable doing that. I was like, and it would probably take longer. So I was like, probably better just get actors. If you have like for this kind of thing. And he was like, yeah, no worries. And then it came to the day where I would love to remember what bar it was. Actually, I must give him a shout or something. And it came to the day where we were to like shoot the scene where like I was in the bar playing. Mm-hmm. There's I've
seen the video.
Yeah, but for anyone who hasn't, there's a part where the couple end up at a gig and I'm up playing on the stage, and that's how they kind of draw me into the narrative or whatever, which is fair enough. But and like, first of all, like, I don't know, there's parts of it where like I just think like, because I'm miming, but like no one taught me how to mime, and obviously I'm miming, but like it felt super unnatural to do, and no one there really had any, like no one else had been in that specific position.
Yeah,
they'd only been on maybe the other side of the camera of it before, but like nobody knew, like nobody had any tips for. But the one thing that really threw me that day was that I'm the fucking cunt whose video it is. Yeah, right. And so I was like, and I'd been told the whole time that there was like, that somebody was gonna be like a stylist or something. So I
I remember you telling.
So I had just like put it out of my mind, going like, cool, I'm in good hands then. Somebody's gonna come and worry about this. And then it was just like his wife or something at the time who was just kind of like knocking about and just kind of being like an extra pair of hands. I was like, so what's the crack then? She was like styling people and stuff, but there was another girl who was like the actual stylist. Mm-hmm. I felt, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. But and he was like, and it was like, 10 to 6 sort of thing. And he was like, do you not have clothes with you? I was like, no, mate. And then so she ran me over to Dunnes Stores and just grabbed the fucking shirt out of Dunnes Stores. And it was literally just because I didn't even have like, it was like a couple of days shooting. I didn't have like anything good or clean looking really like to fucking wear myself. And then she just bucked a load of hair gel into my hair, and that was it. Like, but on radio stuff and media training, I do think like it is a thing worth doing. Like, I'm sure it'd be the kind of thing that Philly would probably be an interested person to chat about, like where from the other side of it, like what makes like a very effective. But I think like I don't know. I worry now going into any of those things which I've done since that like I feel so relaxed chatting now, albeit obviously in a very different medium.
Yeah.
That like I could get to the end of like a 3-minute thing and have completely missed the point of why I was there altogether because I just go.
We often do.
But you know what I mean? It's just like it's such a fucking weird way to promote yourself. It's like go on and be given 3 minutes and be like, just go on there and make everyone fall in love with you.
Yeah.
And also let's play a fucking acoustic version of it at 10 in the morning rather than the really expensive mastered and mixed version that you spent all that money on. Thanks, friends. That's an old gripe. It'll always come back.
It's a classic.
It's a classic. But what's your experience of doing those sort of stuff? Like whenever like Cleanso Parade and all that sort of stuff?
I hate them. I remember like when I went in.
So who
Do you know what?
Who would
Actually,
have went in? Was it you? I assume that you didn't always all fit in the studio.
Once or twice I did like full band stuff. But the last time I went in, I had a really horrible experience in ATL the last time I went in.
The most recent time you were there?
Yeah, when I was doing the album.
Why was that?
Somebody said to me when they realised it was just me in there, they were like, we can get a whole band in here, like Touts. Did you see the thing Touts did? It wasn't, and it wasn't Philly, by the way, because I know Philly is associated with Touts. He was like, did you see their ATL session? They had a whole band in here. It was real live.
That was when you did the Springsteen tune, didn't you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was just like,
this is when you've arrived.
Yeah. The person left the room, and then I was just like, fucking hell. I was like, well, I'm not fucking 19. Do you know I can't get a fucking full band of people together on a Monday evening?
Aye.
Like just with the notice that I had here for free for nothing. I'm not going to ask people who've worked their lives to do this just to come in and do it for free.
It's almost as if the radio station who's making money out of it and used to have budgets to pay bands who now no longer pay bands could maybe help you out that way. And
so I was a wee bit annoyed by that. And then the fucking presenter of that evening says this is kind of last chance saloon for you, isn't it? And I was just like, fuck this.
Yeah.
Fuck this.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because up until that, I had really nothing but positive experiences generally in there. But I was just like, well, for the most part positive, bar the odd awkward interaction. But I was just like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah.
Talk about one feeling like wanted or to even being kind of I'd felt like I was being indulged rather than invited, And I was like,
which is the worst way to feel.
Like I was like, talk about making somebody feel like they shouldn't be doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And worse than that, I mean I was only saying to you there a minute ago, like outside, like that album is incredible.
Thank you.
And I've said it to you a bunch. I feel like I haven't said it enough, but like it is unreal. It's like whenever I'm around Gareth and Amy's there the odd night, like after gigs or whatever, like it constantly, it's just always on playlists and it's always like mixed in with stuff and it never sticks out as like a wee local number,
Yeah.
It's like it's a fucking rock solid album. Like
cheers, man.
It's really really.
Yeah, I'm still proud of it.
You should be. It's class and to go on and do those things and I feel like there's always like There always seems to be, sometimes, not always, there seems sometimes from their point of view, the need to be like clever or something when all they need to do all day, all their job should be, in that scenario, is just softballs. Here you go. How can I make you sound as good as I can possibly make you? That's the only job there. You know what I mean? And it doesn't need to be fake, but like, that's all. The only role is to facilitate you coming away sounding and looking as good as possible. And if the problem was that they weren't, or any scenario, if it's the case that they're not particularly into it, don't have me on then.
Yeah.
If you're not a fan, I don't want to be there.
Yeah.
I dare say sometimes you may find I'm not a fan of yourself. You know what I mean? And like, so maybe this will be a fucking needless interaction between two people who maybe don't want to speak anyway.
Yeah.
And maybe in a normal scenario, we probably wouldn't talk anyway or have an awful lot to chat about. So don't force it then. If you think, like, if you're not jumping up and down about what I'm doing and you can't pretend you are, that's the main thing. It's like, if you can't pretend for 3 minutes that you are jumping up and down about it, save us all the hassle. Don't have me on. I have listened to like years and years and years, but some of those shows, man, like, I remember some friends of mine went in to do a radio thing, and the presenter. So they were like an electronic-y, so I think I might have said this before, they were like a quite electronic sort of group, but obviously, you know, working within the limitations of a live radio thing, like obviously like on a big headline show or something, they would have like maybe a bit of track going on and that sort of stuff, but like, you know, it's often a good idea to take as much out of, and take as much creative freedom away and leave as little room as possible for inevitable mistakes in terms of like, just like, because mixing is like a preference thing, and if you're in there in the room, you don't know what the person mixing it live thinks it should sound like. And so sometimes it's often better to just figure out a dead easy to understand version of it to make work for radio. But so they went in and thought, well, we're promoting a single here, but we'll do like a kind of an acoustic version of it. Because surely if the alternative was that you wanted to hear the version of it, then play it on the radio. But if you want us to come in and do a version of it, then we'll do like... So they did like a kind of a stripped back sort of an acoustic version of it. And the fella on the radio gave out to them. Was like, they played it and he was like, am I right in thinking... He was like, have I got the right song here? Am I right in thinking that like this is a more like electronic sort of thing? And they were like, yeah. But sure, we thought we would do like a kind of a version here for you. And he was just like, why did you think that was a good idea? He was like, sure, now people don't know what you sound like. And they were like, I will. Are we still live? you know what I mean? It was just like, and then the other side of it then like is like, yeah, I know I was shouting on earlier, even a couple of weeks ago or whatever, about like giving out about like being asked the same questions, but if you can't think of more interesting, better ones, don't ask, like, why don't you just go with the stock really good ones, like when's the album out or whatever.
I also remember one time them doing on the B, but getting interrupted to do the impartiality, other things are available mid-sentence, and I was like,
for you,
because I'd mentioned Match It's Music when I was chatting about...
There's also, there's...
I was chatting to Matt McGlynn at the time, who was playing guitar when I was in there, was working, and so I said, Matt, he works over in Match It's, and I was in the middle of like...
Just cut you off. Yeah.
And I was like, I don't think that was so necessary. You could have waited to the end of the... And it really, really threw me. Yeah. Really fucking digging up all these old radio traumas.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting road to go down. There's plenty of them there for both of us, I'm sure. Like, it's... Me and Gareth years ago made a pact that if in like at whatever we called it, we're like, if in 10 years nothing has happened for either of us, we were saying we'll just do an EP, the two of us, on like call it something, and then just get blocked before every single one of them, and just go in and just make an absolute holy show of ourselves, but get a really good guy on PR who secures the slots.
Yeah,
just turn up blocked every time. Just make a hymns of it.
I'll look after the child.
Financially, I hope. But that fuck cunts off being successful now, so I guess that's out of the fucking...
hey, you can always count on me for a piss up.
But yeah, it's some of the most like mind-numbingly boring things I've heard asked on the... I remember once hearing someone ask... oh, it's a cool pedal board you have there. Do you mind talking us through some of them? And the person, you know, whose pedal board it was just like, there's a chorus pedal there.
You just reminded me of something.
That's a distortion pedal. And when he noticed like it wasn't going anywhere, he just went, cool. So, you know, it was a completely pointless segment just to introduce.
So, in Oma, the local paper is called the Ulster Herald, and I don't know if they would say they struggle for content, but they just have like a section of it called The Scene, and it's like what's happening around the town, right? And they just have it. Like I've been on front page of The Scene more times than I could even recollect, with the like all the band stuff. Like when there's local gigs on, you know, they would always promote it really well. But Philly sent me a screenshot of it says music. This is titled Music Scene, so it's a segment on the stage with Jay Strawbridge. And Jay is a guy from Oma who's just always been around the. He's been like I've known. I don't really know him, but I know who he is because he's always been like we were gigging since we were 13, and he was always there, and he still is always at every gig. Mm-hmm. But they did a segment on him, and this is how the section is called A Little Bit About You. and the question is, what is your age and where are you from? And the answer is, I am 42. And the next question is, where are you from? Oh my! And that's how they printed it.
Send me that and I'll stick it on the graphic for the thing. That's
really
fucking amazing. I've asked 2 questions. I expect 2 answers. Yeah. Have you ever done those ones that are going to be printed as blogs, but they're clearly meant to be written as if they're transcripts of a conversation?
Yeah, loads of times.
So you get emailed the questions.
Yeah, and you get to be all...
And you just have to ruminate on your answers for fucking, probably about a month until they're like, I need this today. And you're like, all right, here's some shit.
Yeah.
Some of those.
You're telling me this album was made in lockdown?
Is that right? I can tell that by the title. Let me see. Lockdown Sessions. Yeah. Jesus Christ. Yeah. The whole game is. It's a really tough one, isn't it? Like you do these things. Like, I don't know. Not to put myself out of any future engagements. Like, I have been on the radio at least fucking 30, 40 times, you know what I mean, in my life. And I still would say that the amount of people that followed up and either sent me a message or followed me or sent me a message to say that they followed me because they heard me, or would still probably not, eclipse
it just
80 to 100 people.
It just gets in the way of the music that you're there to promote, really, at the end of the day.
But I actually think...
It's precious minutes. It could be just the song and the DJ saying how much they like the song.
Yeah. Because there's an element of, like... There are people that do it well. I think like Today FM, I have enjoyed like clips that I've seen of them with like, the artist of the week or something like that they have on, and they'll like chat, and like they'll introduce like fun little segments or something, like a bit of crack, like rather than just the tell us about it and where can people hear it. That turns it into like shareable content, which is then more useful for the person that's been on. But like, I dare say that like, no matter how good you are live, when you've had a 30-second sound check and somebody just sticks a pencil mic in front of your guitar or takes a DI out of it, and just sticks a microphone up in front of your face, and 5 seconds later they're like, yeah, you're good to go. You're like, is that really the best way to promote me right now? And I feel like every time I hear them on the radio, there's been times I know the person, like, it's not a reflection of the people that I hear. It's just a more reflection of how it comes across. It always feels like, and here's some shit that we need to put on to meet our quota of local things. You know what I mean? I think the best thing you could do for local music is to just put it among the other music and don't draw attention to it. Maybe give it a shout out, like, yeah, I really enjoy this tune or whatever. Like, but I almost feel like the most respect you can give it is to not give it the tokenism. Like, don't give it that fucking, and here's our local lad, just... I'm all for promoting, like, Irish and Northern Irish music. Like, I don't mean, like, not to... You get what I'm saying?
I get it.
It's just, like, the times that I have felt the coolest about hearing that my song was on the radio was when I wasn't sitting there knowing it was about to be played. You know what I mean? Like I got into the car after Songbook the other night, and just after, it was a tough old night. Just for myself, it was just I was fucking having a bit of a tough one, and I got into the car, and it was really like one of those like white knuckle, just like ones, and like I'm like sat back in the car, filled it up full of clouds, and then turned the radio on, and because I had driven up from Enniskillen that day, and so Margaret had been at the radio and had Downtown on, which I just never... I don't really listen to the radio anyway, so it's never really tuned to like a specific station. But Downtown was on, and like just as I turned the car on, Garrett's new single had just started, and it just got to the bit where he said like, "Look back, smiling," And I was just like, and then it just carried on to the next song, and it probably another one came before it without some big grandiose fucking thing before it. And like, that's the best way to do it, is just to let it slip into the unconscious of people and let them imagine that there's no added like sell as to why I should find this interesting. Just let it live on the radio, and if people like it, they'll follow up. The same way that any time I've ever found a song on the radio that I've really enjoyed, it hasn't needed the person presenting the show to tell me that it's great for me to go and find out what it is. You either like it or you don't. And but I almost feel like it feels like one hand behind your back going on to those sometimes. And I don't know, you could probably talk yourself out of a fan half the time just with how boring the interviews are. They're just like, this guy sounds like fucking shit crack. Don't want to go to that.
He hasn't even said cunt once.
He hasn't said cunt once at all. What am I even paying this license fee for? But I'll never get booked on radio again by the time all these things come out. But as just illustrated, will it matter at all? I can't wait. I'm going to be really upset whenever I lose those 2 fans every 2 years that I've been garnering from all the promo I've been doing. Maybe I just need to be on better shows or more diverse shows. You know what I mean? Maybe that's the problem. I think, and I've said this before to you, and it was a shame. I'm not going to tell the story again. Remember that station that I went on and I got a phone call after from the PR fella, and he was like, I was trying to phone you beforehand. That didn't go out at all.
Oh yeah, what happened on the show that didn't go out?
I went, basically there had been a storm the night before.
Yeah.
I was racing into town. It was in a station I'd never been to. I went upstairs. The 2 lads were really good crack. They were lovely fellas. It was a really modest setup. Like, we are streets ahead of them here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, now they have all the radio equipment and whatever, which obviously makes them more and great patter between the 2 lads. Like, good music. It was really good fun.
Yeah.
I had stuck my phone on airplane mode. Like, as soon as I saw the building, because I was kind of cutting it a bit fine, I stuck it on airplane mode, ran upstairs, and they were like, oh no, you're good for another while, cool. So the phone was still on airplane mode, did the interview, had a whale of a time. Best one I did. By a mile. And then I was like, fucking walked out of there, guitar in the back, was like, well, I dare say I've just earned myself a few new fans. Let's check the social media to see it explode inevitably, I imagine. And then just one message from and about 100 missed calls from fucking Jeff Robinson, just being like, yeah, no, I was trying to ring you to tell you that their mast was blown over last night, and that didn't go to anybody, so there was no point in being there.
You'll always have that wee afternoon together.
But those shows, there's loads of tiny radio stations.
Yeah.
That somebody must be listening to. Like, they had loads of callers, I remember, and emails that day, because obviously they weren't live. But they had loads of emails to follow up on and all. Like, they had great engagement. Like, whoever's listening is listening every day and is a part of the furniture. Like, one of the, they might only have 200 listeners, but they love that show, and they don't miss one. You know what I mean? And I want to find those ones and go and do those ones, and there's bound to be hundreds of them, or internet stuff or internet radio or whatever, littered around the place that has maybe 50 listeners. But I bet they know every single name of every listener that listens. And yeah, it might just be a bit more crack.
Yeah.
You probably get more stories out of it because there's less red tape. You can probably just say matches and not get interrupted by some guy whose job it is to make sure that the economy of music sales in all of Belfast isn't fucking erupted by the volcanic fucking announcement from fucking Mick McCullough that he once was in matches. He's fucking toppled an entire industry. That's why Dawson's is after closing down, because Mick mentioned matches on the radio once. There we are, doing our bit for fucking impartiality. In the meantime, though, can all the fucking gyms of unionism get on the radio every morning and fucking scream, I said I wouldn't go there again, Mick.
He's went there.
Fucking country, swear to God.
Got a few texts today about yesterday about Nathan's manifesto that dropped this week.
Once again, I didn't get any. What were they?
No, it's just my brother was texting me. I can't remember exactly what he said, but I was like, oh yeah, that's right. It's the politics one from a few weeks back.
Which is so out of date now. We literally, the whole episode was wrapped up in, can you believe these people? And little did we know.
Yeah,
we were but babes.
Mm-hmm.
You didn't skim through any of that. Did you see
Not
my
yet,
did you see my my Nathan's Manifesto coffee book ad, which I was pretty proud of.
I'll have a wee look.
Thought that was really funny. But yeah, should we pivot to something else?
I think so.
Should we? Let's do it. I think
we gave radio a good pace in there.
Yeah, one in particular. But so I have there was one that I wrote down right from this list of questions, which you may remember from last episode. So the question was like, here's some cool, quirky questions you can ask your guests. One was worst fashion disaster, which spurred me to think of my own question, which I feel like is more important. And it's the kind of thing people want to know on this show. Have you ever shit your pants?
Yes.
When was the last time it happened? Can I just say, my brother Jesse seems to constantly shit his pants.
You can't just out a man.
Of course I can. Of course. Oh my God, he's given me permission to tell another amazing story, which I will come back to, but carry on. When's the last time you shit your pants as an adult?
Oh, as an adult? I don't
or
think
just,
so.
Okay, well then when's the last time you shit yourself?
How much of it does it have to have happened for it to have classified?
I think we all know when you've shit yourself.
But like,
not like a full log. There's always when you feel shit coming out of your hole. There's always when you
really good. We've really
yes, we're going there. Yeah. Let's just dive in. But yeah, no, like when it begins to happen, you've made an effort not to do it, so it's never a full amount.
Well, I've
like you're always trying to stop it. It's not like you just decided. It's not like you just decided to fucking
lie there.
Just be like, I'm gonna have a shit on this bus now because the queue's too long.
Well, actually, that was one time where I was very close to it on an early morning bus from to the Cardiff airport. Very close. Very close. That was a fucking hairy...
You're so uncomfortable with talking about shit.
That was a hairy taxi ride to the bus depot. When I was a kid on a school trip...
how old are we talking?
P7 school trip to Edinburgh.
How old is that?
9, 10 maybe. 9, I think, okay. I would say. First time I had lasagna. Gave me food poisoning. Got food poisoning from a hostel.
You were 9 the first time you had lasagna?
What? What are you trying to imply? Are you trying to imply that I'm some sort of fucking...
That's a classic staple of the Irish cuisine.
Is it? Well, my dad's not a very actually, neither's my man. Neither of them are very adventurous eaters. Lasagna is a bit fancy sounding.
Right, okay.
So I had lasagna, but a couple of us, I think, got food poisoning maybe from that trip. So and I woke up in my bunk bed in the middle of the night after chancing a fart that, and there was a scurry to the bathroom and a shameful hide of the togs.
I've always had a bee in my bonnet about getting lasagna out places because, and it only occurred to me because it would have been the kind of thing where especially when I was younger, if I didn't know what to get in the menu, there was always a lasagna. I would just get the lasagna, and then I realized after having really good lasagnas that we were being sold a lie in the small bistros of Ireland.
Yeah, well, I mean, I've never been a fan. Haven't been a fan since. I rarely have a lasagna now.
A lasagna has...
It's very triggering for me. Suddenly I'm right back there in the bunk bed. Ocean Duffy beneath me. Hope to God it hasn't seeped through the mattress. Where am I going to hide these dogs? I actually went to hospital when I got home. I was in hospital for a couple of days.
For shitting your pants?
Yeah.
What?
They thought I was going to die of shame, Nathan. No, food poisoning.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. You're kind of taking the crack out of it now.
Which is funny because I always say to Philly to wind him up that I think food poisoning is a myth, forgetting they actually had it.
I think the oldest I was... I think the last time I can remember actually shitting myself, I was about 15. I was in school. And I think I might have been coming back off my lunch or something. And just, one of those things, thought it was a fart. Felt it go down my leg. and then I had to sacrifice my school shirt. Thankfully, it was the latter end of the day, and I just furiously washed it in the.
Can't even imagine what
furiously-
that would have been like.
It was the
The
stress.
fear of being found have shit yourself.
The
in
stress
school.
was something next level. Like, yeah, it was worse than the leaving cert, Mick. I'll tell you that much. But it has reminded me of another story, which has been one of my favourites in my head within my family for years.
Poor old Jesse's
and
about to get hung out to dry.
And
here.
I kept. I mean, there's never really like a good time to bring it up, and it's always been something I've forgotten to even like make a note of. But I did ask him once if I could tell this story because it is so fucking funny. And he was like, yeah, fuck, grand, sure, it is funny, like, sure, tell it. So Jesse used to work in a hotel, not far from where we lived, and then he, would like, I think at one stage he was like the manager of the bar in the hotel and that sort of stuff. But as people who work in bars may can attest, there's the odd night where there's a lock-in or whatever, But so Jesse came home one night from after working a wedding, came home really late, like really, really, really late. I was still up for whatever reason. And we live in a tiny house, like it's really small. It's a converted bungalow. So the hallway years ago was removed to put a staircase in. So the staircase is out, like you have to go through the living room to go up the stairs. It's the living room the stairs essentially in the living room. And then upstairs was the room that was now Jesse's room. But also, because it was like a converted attic, the wall was there mainly. The wall that was put there was like a kind of a hastily erected bit of drywall that wasn't very thick or like, soundproofed or warm insulating or whatever. It was more for aesthetic, for a bit of privacy. Mm-hmm. But Jesse snores incredibly loudly, right? And there was a door, and what little help it did help a little. That was a real fucking tongue twister.
Was a real graduated from English moment there.
What little it did do was, it wasn't like it was just not worth closing the door. And he snores like a fucking walrus. Like, it is intensely loud. So Jesse stumbles upstairs one night, and because the house is so small as well, I was watching something on TV, and I had to have the volume down like incredibly low on the TV just so I wouldn't wake my parents, because once again, like, off the living room is like, the living room is like a square, and then there's like a tiny hallway, and then all the doors to the bedrooms are off that. You wouldn't even call it a hallway. It's literally just like the bit of the living room where all the doors to the bedrooms are. Mm. I can't stress enough how much sound carrying in the house is an issue. So in an effort not to have to turn the TV up louder for fear of waking my parents, Jesse was snoring. His light was off. I was like, fucking hell, I'll just go up and pull the door closed. And so then I won't have to fucking, whatever. So I walk up the stairs and Jesse is fully in the nip, lying on top of his bed, right? He's got one hand on his laptop.
Oh my God.
Which has gone blank. And just
mercifully. Thank God.
And still in his left hand.
Oh no. Oh, no.
It's just a flaccid cock.
I actually thought I was prepared for that to go down the shit route, because I thought that's what I was gearing up for. I'm actually kind of relieved.
He wasn't. And I just died laughing. I obviously closed the door. Didn't say anything. to anyone until I'd said it to him first. I was like, and Jesse would have been very like defensive when he was living at home. So like he got up the next morning and I was like, "You all right? Been a bit late last night?" And he was like, "Yeah." I was like, "Do you remember what you were doing when you fell asleep?" He was like, "No." And then I told him what had happened, and he found it very funny. But I will never just like the crime scene was just laid bare for all to see. You know, just one hand on the space bar. And just like a, you know, just like, just off to the side. Just kind of flat. Oh, fuck. Just one of the funniest things is that I feel like has ever happened in my house. Just laying there. Absolutely asleep. Like fully asleep. Yeah, there you are. And if I've had to edit that out and we're crying laughing now, you'll never know.
It was good though.
It was good crack though, wasn't it? What's in your notebook?
Nothing. I'm just kind of holding my pen nervously and dotting on it.
Just hoping there's no other really gross stories coming up.
I was so I'm literally related. I was like, I hope the fuck he doesn't like just come in and there's just shit everywhere.
No. He was masturbating.
I'm so glad he was just masturbating.
Should we go back to my?
Let's hit Nathan's notes.
Amazing list of what are sure to be fantastic conversation starters. Oh, here we had an idea while setting up for this podcast that we are going to get essentially a podcast phone, which you can all join some sort of a WhatsApp group or just
text
us, but more importantly, what we would like is voicemails.
Yeah, voice notes
on WhatsApp. This was on the list of cool questions to ask your podcast guest that'll really help get to know them. What is your favourite colour?
Oh, I'm going to have to say baby blue.
How many nights have begun with we were all sitting around talking about what our favourite colour was and then Mick came out with the cracker, baby blue, and sure there was war over that. Sure, baby blue's for babies. And he got very defensive.
Fan of green?
Margaret hates green in a way that is unreasonable to hate a colour. Like, hates green so much. Like, I bought new toothbrushes the other day, right?
And they were green.
One was green, one was blue, and they were the same one. And I was like, well, do you want to pick one? She was like, give me the fucking blue one. So I'm that fucking stinking fucking thing.
Big fan of pink as well.
She is also a big fan of pink.
A lot of pink in my wardrobe.
Yeah. I have no real strong feelings on any colours. I just don't care. And not that.
I mean, you brought it up.
Not that. No, I'm just saying. As it is a kind of a thing that, when you literally can't.
What does your favorite colour say about you?
Nothing. Does it? Does it?
Well,
say,
that's where the conversation.
What do you think your love of babe? If we were to go down that rabbit hole, what do you think your love of? If you were to play this game correctly, I guess is what I'm asking.
I had a lot of baby blue underwear, which the lads pointed out to me when I lived with them in uni, and they're like, "You fucking love baby blue. Everything you own is baby blue."
Baby blue is
blue boxers.
Baby blue is a bold choice for boxers for obvious reasons.
Why? What do you go for?
Skitties, mate.
Yeah, but what? No, what?
You need brown coloured underwear. Yeah, just so it all looks the same. Yeah, I if I was to guess what my favorite color is, just based on how I buy things, I seem to favor I think nearly all my cars have been red.
It's a very aggressive color, Nathan.
Well, I need people to know that I'm manly.
It's very aggressive color.
Probably undermined by my most recent bold, colourful acquisition, which was my sparkly blue guitar. Which I also loved. And wasn't red. So what does that say about me? That I'm sparkly and blue? I
see blue, sky blue, fields of green. That's me.
There's something.
I'm just your regular homesick guy.
There's something about
pining for Ireland. Sorry.
There's something about. There's something about certain colors in food that are like more dazzling for like. I remember hearing someone talking about it once on a podcast, like why we're drawn to like certain things, and why certain colors of food freak us out, like subconsciously, and like so like blue is a good example. Like there's nothing like naturally occurring in nature, food wise, really more or less that's blue.
Blueberries,
but they're not really blue. They're green. They become blue when you mix them into shit. They're like, but they're more purple than anything. They're not like blue. They're not like you wouldn't find a fruit that coloured.
If I did, I would absolutely take a bite out.
But
of
it would
look like
but
that.
it's kind of like it's kind of weird, isn't it? Like if you think about it, you're like, I wouldn't really want it. But and that's obviously why green is so pleasing to most people, is because it's everywhere and it's like the colour of life essentially. It seems
verdant.
Yep. You can get a trap for that. You can get a couple of humane ones, bit of cheese. Crap. Getting them all out now. Get them all out now. Before this poor child has to listen to this fucking nonsense. I like this one. What is your personal idea of heaven?
Heaven as like a religious concept, or as like
let's take it as if heaven is real and you die and you go there and it's everything you want to spend eternity in, then what does it need to look like?
But see, I don't think the concept of
I think it's actually akin to like if you never needed to work again and had like unfathomable amounts of money, which meant that you could literally like nothing was ever. It's essentially the same question, but it's different when you think about it living for a certain amount of time. But it's basically the question of like, if you weren't trying, like your entire life, our entire lives, everyone's more or less, is structured around eating, sleeping, riding, and warmth, I think is probably another big one. So...
Wasn't it Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Is that what that is?
Is that what it is? Right.
I think so.
Yeah. I mean, I would make sense.
Like I think
it would make sense if somebody's given it a name. Yeah, because
it starts with the base is stuff like shelter, nutrition, and then like up until like self-actualized, you're living your best.
Yeah. So, and the pursuit of those is essentially and nearly exclusively career-driven. In order to get most of those things, more or less. Obviously, there's ways to get them, like off living in the woods or whatever. But like, so living within our society's parameters, it generally means that you spend most of your life working. But what would you do if, what's the goal? You know what I mean? Like when people are like constantly advancing and trying to get like more money and all that sort of stuff to, live more comfortable lives and whatever. And obviously comfort is, as you get older, is like a very desirable thing to be striving for in your younger years to work towards. But like if you were given, if it was just like you can make anything you want, you can pay any number of people to be a crew to film anything you want. Like, is that what you would do with it? Would you... There's two different heavens here. There's the dead for eternity heaven, and then there's the
ideal scenario,
and then there's the like on earth. If you had all the money you'd ever need, how would you spend your time? Not what I hate the what would you see. This is it's not the what would you buy, like what would you do with your money. It's like what would you do with your day if you didn't need to worry about money.
I would make it. I would spend my day making stuff.
Yeah.
Just making stuff, yeah, and engaging with people probably, like you're like in a purely social level. Because if you have an online, means you can like you'll be able to play host as well if you're that comfortable, so you can retain a lot of connections and relationships. But I'd still continue to do what I was doing, making stuff. I think because that's
totally. But
making stuff and digesting stuff and just like. The reason why I immediately was like, well, because the concept of heaven and eternity, that feels like diametrically opposed concepts to me. Because the idea of being eternal, that's just like, if it's infinite and there's no finite, I don't know, it just feels that feels more pointless to me than having a finite time to do what you need to do.
Yeah.
That feels like there's like people say, oh, it's pointless, you die anyway. Sorry, people say it's like, oh, it's pointless, you die anyway. But if you never died, then everything would just be pointless. Does that make any sense?
Yeah.
So if none of those,
Do you know what? Just move that.
so if
Because
none of
you seem to prefer over.
yeah, if none of those obstacles were in the way, I would probably continue to do a lot of the shit we're doing. We're probably a wee bit warmer doing this, I'd imagine.
We would definitely do it in a place with central heating for sure, at the very least, yeah. But yeah, I guess then though, if you had to define, like, you die, you go to heaven, it's real, you're there forever now. What would be, because there's no work, surely. There's no, like, surely heaven's supposed to, like, all the people that died 500, 600, 700,000 years ago, like, surely weren't all, their dream wasn't to go up and just have the password to every sort of subscription service and spend their time digesting TV shows. So, like, surely the religious vision for heaven is the community, you know, kind of like everyone you love is there, all your pets, all your ex-wives, you know, but like
all of them.
I just always, there's a couple of real weird fucking wormholes in my head about like what happens if this happens, and then if heaven is real, and then I did this and what. But I always wonder about people with spouses, and then if they have another spouse after maybe their spouse dies, and then they go up into heaven.
The plural of spice.
Spice.
Yeah, the plural of spouse is spice.
So like you go up to heaven and it's like, do they have to just fight it out, or is it like an orgy now, or is it like, or how does it work? Is your whichever one was more jealous no longer jealous? Because sure, we're in heaven now. How does it work? But that's not the question I wanted to ask you, Nick. But yeah, like if it had to happen, what would be the? I don't know if I have an answer for it myself. I think like no hangovers would be cool, but you could drink.
I'm struggling to understand the question and the angle of where you're coming from.
What is like? So you said like your idea. You said they're diametrically opposed because you wouldn't want to just fart on an eternity forever. You think
that sounds like hell to me.
Yeah, but if heaven exists,
what does it look like to me?
And like what could it be that wouldn't be terrible, if you understand? Like, is that a better way of putting it? Like, other than the fact that you're going to have to do it forever and ever and ever and ever.
Then right, we're all kind of deconstructed energies of light rather than these kind of like human looking forms. We don't take on our human forms. We're all just one transcendental fucking energy ball of glowing and euphoria, looking over those currently in the plane of existence that we like to call living, Nathan.
That sounds like more crack, doesn't it?
Yeah, and then the other time, a couple of ones go into the forest and start eating some mushrooms, and we're like, yes, you know the crack. I'll see you in 30 years, and you're back again. You'll be very content now. You know, that sort of stuff.
I think that would actually be that's
my hope.
That would be my probably, now that you say it, my most favourable outcome would be that I just get to carry on watching what happens after.
Or you come back as some part of
a Parma Violet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Hope I made into a refresher.
Sprayed into the fucking.
If I get made into Parma Violets, I'll be so upset. They're my least favourite of the sweets. And we'll leave you on that.
Goodbye, everybody.
What sweet would you be?